Welcome to the Mike Rosehart Show, guys. Hello, hello, and hello. I see you're live there as well. We are now live for the Mike Rosehart Show. Sorry, I'm a bit delayed. I just came an hour from my land development there, the $1 million cottage subdivision that we're working on there. So you can check my Instagram stories if you want to follow along with that. We'll be doing a video on the main channel for that soon. Good to see you guys all on again. I have had a crazy week, but today was actually a really good day. I got to spend some time walking around with Kyle, shooting some videos, got to apply for a minor variance application on the land development. We have an existing 2.5 car garage that we want to keep on one of the lots, and it's built 5.5 inches too close to the current setback, front yard setbacks. So we're applying for an exemption to allow that garage to exist on the lot once we sever off from the main house, and then the other two, there'll be 4 lots in total. So yeah, so that was, hopefully we're gonna get that approved, and then we'll be able to get the full severance done, and then it's, you know, bringing all the services for utilities, and then boom, build. So that's fun. Hey, how's it going? Good picture. Cool. Okay, so everything's going through nicely, and good to see Elion and William. See in the comments there. And hello, everyone who's watching on Instagram and on Facebook. So we are doing the triple stream like we always do, but I think there's going to be some changes. Remember the last 3 episodes we talked about doing something with a Patreon account or doing something with, there's a few options. One thing I'm noodling on is doing the live streams on this channel and doing a live stream also at the same time on my main channel, and using the main channel to do super chats. I'm thinking that if we delete the video after, it won't negatively affect the algorithm, because live streaming on YouTube is known to negatively affect the algorithm unless you can get a lot of views in your live stream videos. Like if your live streams do really, really well, it's worth it. Hey Ryan, how you doing? Then it's totally worth it, right? But if your YouTube videos are getting like 50 or 100 people live, you know, get a little bit of views, it'll be kind of depromoted. What you can do though, I think, if I've been reading, is that YouTube rewards what makes YouTube money. And YouTube takes a lot of money at the super chats. So maybe instead of a Patreon, I'll go on my main channel, the 13,000 subs, you know, the proper channel, and we'll do live stream on there, and we'll have 50 or 100 people jump in, and the loyal core can super chat every time. YouTube will take their cut, but they'll promote it, and it won't hurt me negatively from the algorithm's perspective, and we don't need to set up a Patreon or a PayPal. Saves us just time administratively. So that's one option that we could do. So we could do like the super chats and bring that back again. The whole point being to bring money for equipment and put money in Kyle's hands. So it'd be pretty much if you want to donate towards keeping this fund sustainable, right? Because sustainable means that it at least breaks even. If it loses money, that's not sustainable, right? If I'm putting money into this venture rather than making anything from it, it's not really sustainable. But yeah, I think that it's been a good week. Today, actually, I was on the radio, so you can check that out. I'm going to share it on my Facebook. I'll share the link to that pre-recording. But the last 30 minutes of this radio segment I was on today, which is really interesting, it was talking about whether you're rich or wealthy, and a bit of the difference between the two, and wealthy being something that's more sustainable, right? That's got long-term passive income, and rich being like a state, like having cash that, you know, isn't necessarily making you financially independent, but is there to kind of keep things moving. You can imagine like a doctor would have like $200,000 in their bank account. They'd be rich and have great income, but they don't have passive income, so they're not wealthy. The mindset's different. And so the rich person has to keep working. The wealthy person has that passive income and doesn't touch the principal. So that's sort of a difference, I think, between being wealthy and rich. And I went into a depth further, talking about freedom related to wealth. And you guys saw on my main YouTube channel, the parable of the fisherman and the banker. So that was an interesting one last week. I really enjoyed that video. For myself, I'm kind of in between, if you watch the parable and you understand the parable, between the fisherman and the banker. I'm sort of right in the middle. And I feel like, you know, I was telling Kyle this when we were driving in the car on the hour ride down, that I think for myself, I still like to be involved in work and get things done from a, you know, generating wealth perspective. I like to feel engaged, and I like to feel like I'm contributing value to society. So working every day is good. In the sense of fishing, I like to go out and fish, but I don't want to fish because I have to feed my family. One day I might make some wine. One day I might fish. The next day I might go and, you know, hang out with my family. The next day I might try something else. I like the excitingness of everything. Reflecting personally on that parable, I didn't go into the video on this, but for myself personally, somewhere in the middle. I think having that financial freedom, having that need to not work, but at the same time, also being able to have that relaxed lifestyle. And I've gone too far. Like, people who know me know that I'm on polar opposites. It's just the way that I am. I'll swing right and then I'll swing full left and I'll correct somewhere in the middle. It's just how I am. I'll go full retired and then I'll work 100 hours a week and I'll curve somewhere back in the middle. Right now I've taken on admittedly too much, and so I'm scaling back a little bit. We're going to sell some of the properties in the portfolio that have great equity upside, and then we're going to probably reinvest the investor's capital into something very turnkey, pull some money off the table, scale down our growth a little bit, still grow, but grow at a pace that's more realistic, like a property a month type of thing. We're going to scale back a little bit, get our systems in order, make sure our main people are taken care of, and cull down the investor herd to the select few investors we like working with best that will scale down the amount of time I have to spend on the phone talking to people. I'm trying to get my time down, be more efficient, and actually basically make more money by doing less. So focusing on high profit projects rather than focusing on huge volume. I'd rather focus and niche down the things that I'm good at and that I enjoy. And if you're doing, for me personally, when you're doing something that you're not learning anything new, like literally buying a property a week, I was just doing the same grind. We buy a property, renovate it, and all the stresses and drama just repeats again and again. It was not interesting for me anymore. Like when I've done 60 or 70 property transformations, it's boring to do 71, 72, 73. At what point does it matter? Like when you've done 100 properties or even 50 properties, you get to a point where I'm not learning anything new. And so still going to work with investors, but doing it on a different scale. The goal is not 1,000 properties in like 2 years. It's taking our time. Over the next 20 years, we'll probably get to 1,000 properties. It's very likely. I'll probably own 10 other businesses as well because I can't keep my hands out of the fire. But I've got to focus on thinking back to that parable and some advice that some mentors in my life and family members in my life have given me. You don't want to push yourself too far. You need to know when enough is enough, and I'm way past the point of enough. Like my passive income is way more than I need. What I'm doing is for altruistic purposes. I'm doing it to help my mentees. I've been narrowing down and focusing on my mentorship program, which has a mentee fund, and I've been providing capital for my mentees to buy properties. I've been doing joint venture partnerships still, but again, my focus has been on helping that be a win-win for everyone, right? So helping the investor get to financial independence, helping the mentees get to financial independence. It can't be about me. And in the act of altruism, I can't be self-sacrificing or sabotaging my relationships with my friends and family at the same time. So I have to be cognizant of literally booking in time in my calendar for my family, for my friends, for the things that are important like self-care. And that's something that's become very important. And I think I want to share that with you guys as you go down that pathway. Make sure you take time for yourself. Make sure you take time for your family. You'll have your whole life to make a lot of money. And I think if you can focus on finding balance, you'll be much wealthier. And I think there's wealth. Freedom is wealth. I'll leave it with that. Anyway, so that's just like a little preamble I wanted to give. You guys can jump to questions and we can talk about real estate investing, talk about what I'm up to, closing a business. As you guys know, I think it's closed today officially. So that's exciting. I'll be in Toronto to get a little bit of training on that and get that onboarded. Really excited for that business. It stands to make a ton of money as well, and so that's really exciting. And changing things in the medical space, we're creating products that we have patents on that are actually changing people's lives. And so that's a fun thing too to be involved in. And so for me, it's about finding projects that I can be passionate about. And as long as I'm passionate about something, it's awesome. What's not awesome is when it starts to feel like a job. And so I never want you guys to get to that point when what you're doing for passion feels like work or becomes work. You need to make a change and you need to make a shift and make it fun again, make it creative and find ways to create win-wins. World of Warcraft, for those people who played the original World of Warcraft, I haven't played World of Warcraft in a decade, so it's been 10 years. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to play that starting in September, so I'm going to try to integrate that in my schedule, a couple of hours at the end of each night to sort of relax and enjoy things. And so if you're going to get on the World of Warcraft Vanilla Classic game, hit me up. We're going to start a little clan on there and have some fun. So that'll be kind of fun. The mentees and I are going to have a lot of fun doing some raiding and PvP. That's something that's from me, right? Like, I could just do nothing. I could stop entirely and just do my YouTube channel once a week and maybe the odd deal here and there. But I don't think that would keep me satisfied. I think, honestly, if I played World of Warcraft all day, I'd be dissatisfied with my life. So it's all about balance. And that's the key thing I think I'm finding as I explore and think through what makes a human happy at the end of the day. We all have our balances. Some people like working 100 hours a week and they have no passion for having a family or like having kids in a family or having close friends. None of that matters to them. They just want to grow, their businesses or whatever. I think honestly, it's an empty pursuit, and if that makes them happy, let them do that, right? Let those people chase that. That's my share for today. Rex jumped in and said, self-care is a good priority. Take care of yourself so you can take care of others. Exactly. They say put your own air mask on before you reach your neighbor and put their air mask on, right? So, William has a question here. Question this evening: is the Olive Garden all you can eat worth it? $100 for 6 or 8 weeks. Interesting. So I'm not sure what this is about, William. I know in Canada we have Eastside Mario's, which is an equivalent to the Olive Garden, effectively, and they had a promotion a while back. I think it was $50 for like 6 weeks of, or no, in the Canada 150, it was $150 for like 6 months or something of unlimited eating with this pass, and it sold out like that. Like you couldn't even buy them anywhere; they were sold out that quickly. If you're willing to, I think the pass is $100 for 6 or 8 weeks of all you can eat, that seems pretty worth it to me. How many times do you have to go to the Olive Garden to get your value? Your live stream truly refocused me. I finished Early Retirement Extreme, How to Save. Awesome, that's amazing. Yeah, a fantastic book. I've personally met one of the guys who got me into this, which is Jacob Lundfisker, who wrote Early Retirement Extreme. Got to sleep in his house, and I think Kyle came with me. What was it, like 62? 58? 58 in his house? It was 58 in his house in the winter. I had 2 blankets on, and I was cold, and I keep my house like in the 60s.
I was warmer sleeping downstairs. So.
Yeah. I don't know how, but like I think there was no insulation upstairs or something. And it's got a bad spot. But anyway, great guy. Love his outlook on life. I like overall his philosophy. He was the first to pioneer a lot of what we take for granted today in the financial independence, early retirement community. He did it on such a lean budget so quickly and proved that anyone can do it. Like you can make $30,000 a year and retire early in your 20s or 30s. He proved that's possible. Now through extreme frugality. Myself personally and my family, we like to spend a little more. But, sorry about that, I'm getting calls. Could you do me a favor? Can you text the group chat and just tell Wade to message Todd or whatever, figure out what's going on with that? And tell him I'm doing live stream. Sorry, one of our guys needs to be paid. Just do the wholesale group.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, no, he's not in there, but Jonas will be able to call.
Right.
Sorry about that, guys. Tomorrow in the States, unlimited eating, yes, about 7 to 8. Yeah, so I think you're talking about all you can eat for $100. That's kind of interesting. I wonder, it depends how many people you could use the card for. If it's one person, one card for 6 or 8 weeks, that's totally worth it. What's, okay, let's say it's 6 weeks times 7 days is 42 days of eating. If you went there every single day for dinner, forget lunches, went there every day for dinner and had a $15 meal, or let's say a $10 meal, that's $420. You'd be a huge win. The only way the company would win is, I guess, one, you could get addicted to their food. Which, like, can you get addicted to food? I don't even know. I feel like you get sick of food.
Yes, you can.
Apparently you can get addicted to food, but I would get sick of it if it was me.
Yeah.
And then 2, I guess they would win if you just got the card and didn't use it. So, William, if you're going to use the card at Olive Garden, go ham and use it every day. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's like gift cards. They do talk about the gift card. There's an article I was reading about like gift cards never being used. There's a study or something I was reading in this article. It just came off my feed on Facebook about how like I think it's like 20% of gift cards never get used. They get lost or forgotten about. And so if you think about that, if people are spending millions on gift cards and they're getting like $1 million, like Walmart's getting like, they're using examples of big box stores having millions of dollars in gift cards that are out that never get used. So they have to sit on the books as like basically prepaid, like an unearned revenue, effectively, or a prepaid. So that's sort of interesting to think about. It's like a debt. Like they have literally a debt item on their balance sheet that says, hey, they owe all these customers products. They've gotten cash and they have vouchers, these gift cards that have been lost and never get used. So after a while, these companies end up with huge gains that they can write in because the person never used the cards in the first place. So gift cards are fantastic because people lose them and they forget about them. Myself personally, I had a $10 Timmy's gift card in my wallet and it literally fell out. So I lost like $10. And I'm like, that's an example of, I just remember going through my wallet and thinking, geez, I just lost $10. That sucks. I wonder what happened to that. It just fell out of my wallet. So that's an example of like, there's $10 that Tim Hortons just made where now I don't get some coffees and bagels because, we spent $10. They got the $10. They had to provide no service to me at all except for a 5-cent plastic gift card that got lost. So that's a huge win for them. Definitely, when you think about, overall how, companies structure things. That's why Olive Garden probably does what it does. But I really appreciate that How to Save. That means a lot. I keep doing these live streams, and I do them so often that I figure some of my viewers are probably fatigued by the fact that I am literally doing these every single week. But I continue to go out there, and maybe if I'm reaching even like 2 or 5 people, it's worth it. And so I really appreciate those comments. And if you are watching, jump in the comments and just say like, hey, say that you're watching. It means something to me. Makes it worth my time here. She said, Mimi says, I'm teaching a leadership class at an alternative high school. We're studying how to win friends and influence people. Very interesting. I haven't read that book, but you'll have to share with me some more about that so we can chat about that. But how to win friends and influence people. Sounds like that's one of the core pillars of success in life. If you can figure out how to win people's buy-in, you'll have a much easier time in life. That's why they say that, I read this article, I don't know how true it is, but that attractive people or easily approachable people tend to do much better in life, like several-fold times better. And it's because good-looking people are often easy to approach. You feel more willing to kind of work with them. You feel like there's just something special about working with that person, right? And you can just imagine your own world. If you had 2 people to deal with and one person was like this mean like troll and the other person was a really nice like good looking person, all other things the same, you'd rather deal with like the nice good looking person. We're just naturally gravitating towards someone who's easy on the eyes. And so it's interesting that some things even you can't control, but some things you can control. For instance, like having a goatee. They say guys are 10% less approachable with a goatee. So like shave your face and you'll have 10% more success. As a salesman, apparently it's up to 25% more successful just by shaving your face. So if Matt McKeever's watching, shave your face. No, someone needs to tag him for this. I was watching a live stream of his the other day, and I think it was Instagram story or something. He was talking about how no one ever like comments on his facial hair, but like no one actually cares in real life. But there is some studies that do suggest that if you are clean cut and you dress reasonably and present yourself well, you have a much higher chance of landing a sale, a much higher chance of succeeding in life. There are exceptions to every rule and there are anomalies, etc. But someone tag him in this. I think he'll enjoy that. But yeah, there is some data. You can do some Googling on certain things you can do to present yourself in a better light to people. And that's one super easy thing you can do. Like if you just have like a nasty, mangly goatee right now, you can just like shave that off and be like 10% more successful in your life. But yeah, there are situations where maybe having facial hair can help you. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. I'm sure that's just like one study. There's probably another study that says that more mature guys do better. There's also studies that say that I've read contradicting studies. I read one that said that shorter people are easier to approach. People feel more comfortable and tend to be better friends with shorter people. Like they tend to just like put their arm around them, like, oh, my buddy. They don't feel intimidated. Versus tall people, they feel intimidated. But I read another study that said that, interestingly, CEOs on average are like 6'1.5". So CEOs tend to be very tall. Executive C-suite all tend to be very tall. If you look at the data, most of the leaders in the world are taller. And the reason for that in the corporate world is that taller people are more intimidating and they tend to get their way. So when they go for a handshake or whatever they're trying to do in business, you have to be very assertive. And so having that height can give you an advantage and feel more intimidating. So depending on what you're trying to work with, interesting things, you could wear like taller shoes and gain an inch and a half, wearing like dress shoes or heels if you're a woman. So some interesting things like that I remember reading into when I was taking psychology in university, and even more recently just kind of coming across my feed about how to prepare for success. I don't know how much these things actually matter, but I think they matter a bit. They even, like I remember an article like you're 4% richer if you get like straight teeth. So just getting like braces can affect how much people trust you, trust your smile. It's just it's crazy stuff like that. You can do simple things like get a Invisalign and be more successful. But you don't need any of those things to be successful. There are people who crush it without any of those things needed. And I think at the end of the day, the strongest determinant, probably several 1,000% greater return in life, is how hard you work. So your discipline or your ability to persevere and delay gratification. That is the number one indicator of success. Yeah, so it's a very solid book. I actually gifted the book to a lot of friends. Cool. I can't remember if I asked this last week, but would you stop your 401k to save up for a rental budget? Currently dropping $300 a paycheck. Okay, so what do we think here? So your 401k is like your retirement plan. It depends. It depends on your current tax situation, depends on your current earnings situation, depends on what the return on that renovation is. So if the renovation is going to get you, say you spend $20,000 renovating, and that would get you double or triple the value of the property and double the rent or something to that effect, that could be a 100% ROI, return on your investment. Maybe if you think about putting that in your 401k and getting a 6% return or a 7% return and that's it, I don't know. If your company's going to match you on your 401k dollar for dollar, toss it in your 401k all day. Where do you get a risk-free 100% return on your money? Contributing to your RRSP or 401k with company match. That's if you have a company matched pension, company matched RRSP, max that out until they stop matching you. Go to the maximum that they'll match you for. That's the best use of your money. Everyone talks to me and says, hey, like, should I be saving outside of that? No. Like, doesn't matter what you're invested in, to double your money or get them to match 50% of every dollar you put in, that's 50% to 100% return on day one, plus that grows and compounds at a 6 or 7% rate of return. Take advantage of those. Yes, 100%. Take advantage of it. So it depends on the situation. It's hard to be precise when there's so many variables at play, but I would say it depends on what you're going to be doing with that money. And with more clarity, I could probably answer the question for you a bit better. But yeah, thanks for jumping in. Appreciate that. Always good knowledge. Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate that. It means a lot. Chad says, hey, Mike, just wanted to say thank you for all the knowledge you share. It's helped me close on my first and second property in the last few months. You're an inspiration. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. That comment means a lot. Thank you so much for comments like these. This is why I do what I do and why I continue to do this for free. In fact, we're losing money, and that's why we need to get on the main, hopefully on the main YouTube channel. Everyone can jump on. We'll do some super chats on there, and hopefully, I'm hoping next Wednesday we'll go on the main channel, and I'll let everyone know ahead of time that I'm doing it. It'll be Wednesday at 7 p.m., and we will blast the super chats. I expect like at least 10 people to all donate at least $10. So we're gonna raise $100 like that. We're gonna teach YouTube to promote the live streams, and we're gonna raise a little bit of money for the equipment. So that would mean a lot if you guys all put that in your calendar for next Wednesday. That'd be cool.
Yeah, tell them what I just bought.
Yeah, we just bought Cal just bought a brand new tripod that's got like a leveler in it and all this kind of stuff. Super slick that this camera's sitting on right now because our last one broke. So maybe you guys want to help pay for that because it's literally just a tripod so that I can give you guys all the free content. That'd be cool. What are your opinions about a looming recession? So GB5530, looming recession, likely. I think likely we will have a recession. I would bet money we will have a recession. When? I don't know. Will it be this year, next year, the year after, the year following that, or the year after that? Don't count your hens until they've hatched, is the saying, I believe. So it may be a good time to take some money off the table to lock in some of those gains. You got a property that's tripled in value. Maybe it's a good time to refinance it and pull that money out. Maybe it's a great time to go and sell that property if you can, from a tax perspective, lock some of those gains in. That would be very prudent and very smart and give you some gunpowder going into the next recession, because that is where millionaires and billionaires are made, is during recessions. It's when we make the most amount of wealth. It's the time to buy, and you make your money on the buy. So yes, a recession is coming. No, I don't know when. I'm not going to pretend to know when. I'm not an economist, and even economists have no idea. Let's be honest here. There are so many factors at play here that I think the best thing that we can do is say, prepare for a downside at all times on every investment that you go into. What that means is investing for cash flow, having contingencies available in times of recession. It means being careful with how you invest. It means often not investing for speculation. That's what it means effectively. So how do you prepare for it? You build your war chest up before the recession. And that means culling back some of your gains and taking that off the table. Because you know what? Yes, you could get another 50% more, but it's better than losing 50%, right? Humans feel loss twice as much as they feel gains. We have a loss aversion for a reason. If I take $100 from you, it's way more emotionally painful than if I give you 200. Or I guess they're about equivalent. But if I take 100 and gave you 100, losing 100 would be much more painful. That's what the studies suggest if you follow in psychology. So something to think about. Okay, so Ilya says, hi Mike, a bit off topic. Can you take a bit about cost segregation, depreciation, or rental property for tax purposes? It will reduce taxable income, will increase your depreciation recapture on sale. Yeah, so you're talking about depreciation on rental properties for tax purposes. In Canada, and I can't speak to the US, but in Canada, in general, what you can do, and I'm not a tax professional, so don't trust everything that I say. Go talk to a tax professional and verify everything that I'm saying for yourself and find out if that makes sense for you. We're talking about rental property depreciation. Buildings sit on land, right? Houses, property, and it depreciates over time. Your roof rots, your furnace decays, your walls need to be, they decay, your trim needs to be painted, your door will eventually break down. Everything breaks down. That is the concept of depreciation. Things decrease in value over time. The buildings specifically decrease in value. Land always appreciates in value. And so you have a property, and say the value of the property is, say, 40% land and 60% building when you bought it. Every property is a little bit different, that percentage will vary. But typically what you're going to have is around half the value of your property is probably the building itself. In some cases, maybe it's 75% of the whole package purchase price. That means, and whenever you decide that percentage is, you have to stay consistent year over year on your tax return. But my understanding is, as that building depreciates, you can claim a depreciation expense. Now, what we see in the last 10 years is that land is appreciating faster than the building itself is depreciating. So the net gain, if you do nothing, is overall positive at a rate of inflation. Now, if you maintain your property through maintenance expenditure, by spending to maintain your property, what you'll find is that you basically stave off the depreciation effectively. So your building stays in the same condition it was when you bought the property. Or what most people do is they let things depreciate to they let the building degrade to a certain point, and then they do a big renovation. So they let it degrade bad enough that they replace the roof. They let their furnace get to a point where it breaks and they replace their furnace. They let their floors get worn down so bad that eventually they put new floors in. That's what most people do. Depreciation is the idea that because the building's depreciating and you're not really losing anything physically, you're not really losing any cash out as your roof gets 1% worse and your furnace gets 1% worse and your floors get that extra scratch in them. It doesn't really affect the value, but for tax purposes, you are allowed to depreciate a percentage of the building. Now, this varies based on a number of factors and depending what you're trying to depreciate, but the idea is this. You can take a percentage of your building and write it off against your rental income to create a lesser tax burden for yourself. So you'll pay less tax. The government says, that's okay, you can depreciate some of this building and get a bit of a write-off. So where no actual cash is going out, you're getting a write-off. So you're not putting any money out, but you're getting a write-off against your rental income, which gives you a lesser tax bill, effectively, at the end of the day. It's great for having less money to pay now. You mentioned in the latter half of your question about recapture. So the idea of recapture is that at the time in which you sell this asset, this property down the line, the government says, you've sold your property for X value, you need to recapture all that depreciation expense, which is only fair now because you've sold this property and you've got a gain. In most cases, you could have a loss, but in most cases you have a gain. And you need to now recapture that depreciation because you've sold that asset. That wasn't actual cash that came out. We're giving you the right to write this property down. What ends up happening on large multifamily buildings is people will write off hundreds of thousands of dollars in depreciation on these massive buildings over a 20 or 30 year period. So when they go to sell, the depreciation recapture has to be added back, which will come out of your capital gain effectively. You have to add all that back as income because you expensed it over all of the years. Where you win is if you don't sell this building for like 50 years. The time value of money is you're getting expenses on year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 that are helping you reduce your tax burden. And over 50 years, if I lent you $100, I'm going to use an example to explain this. The time value of money is if I lent you $100 right now and I said pay me back in 50 years, you're paying me back zero. If I lend you $100 and say pay me back $100 in 50 years, you're effectively paying me back like $1, because the value of $1 cuts in half every 20 or so years, right? So like, or I guess if it's like 50 years, you'd be paying me back like 1/5 of what you lent me. So it's the equivalent buying power in 50 years of $20. You give me back $100 that I gave you 50 years ago, you're equivalently giving me back $20. So you made $80 in value because the time value of $1 is decreasing. So because time value of money over time is such that the cost of everything goes up over time, typically we're seeing inflation is such that everything goes up and over time. If you can expense items now, it's better. If your tax rate is higher now than it will be when you sell, for instance, you're in a high earning year today and you're depreciating, and later on you're going to be in a position where you're retired and you have low income. That's a huge win, right? So that would be where depreciation is great. It'd be awesome for your overall strategy. And it's why a lot of people depreciate. People who say, I'm never going to sell, they depreciate. People who say, my tax rate is high this year, they depreciate. I haven't done a lot of depreciation only because I've decided that my income is probably going to be higher. My tax bracket rate is going to be higher when I sell these properties than it is now. And so I've always just kind of prescribed to not depreciate. But I think this year my income is going to start being the max tax bracket where it doesn't make a difference either way. And therefore paying $1 back to the government later, effectively, paying that $1 of tax back to them in 50 years is much better than paying the tax to them now. So you want to defer paying as much tax as you can until sale, which is what depreciation allows you to do in a nutshell, is defer paying tax till a future point in time. Sorry if that was a long-winded response. We probably should have saved this little caption video on depreciating buildings because that was like rather elaborate and I went deeper than I planned to go. Sorry if I went too deep for the people watching. Hopefully that answered your question. Satisfactory. Hey Mike, do you want to joint venture with me? I can qualify for A-lender mortgages and I'm a really hard worker. Connor, hit me up. Slide in my DMs, and if there's something we can do to joint venture, let's do it. I'll bring the deal, and yeah, I'd be happy to chat about that. Take advantage of some A-lender mortgages and bring you some sweet deals. Sure, let's talk about that. Thanks, that was great. Awesome, I'm glad that I answered your question sufficiently. So the shorter answer is depreciation is good if you plan to hold the property for a long time. If you're going to flip the property in a year or two, or you have a plan to exit soon, it's probably not worth the hassle of going through your capital cost allowance schedule and trying to figure out how to depreciate the renovations as well as the building. Because when you do renovations, you can also depreciate all of those capital in nature expenditures. Like when you put in a whole new unit in your basement, that's a capital in nature, and you can depreciate that renovation over the life. They have a prescribed schedule, depending on what you did, a furnace or a roof. You can depreciate that and get write-offs over a series of years. Again, not a tax professional. I have a rough working understanding of the tax code, so as it relates to real estate and business entrepreneurship, such that it can help my investors and myself. But I'm not claiming to be an expert, and my extent of understanding stops at basic tax planning. Don't consult your financial planner because they mostly are, I don't want to throw shade, but most of the financial planners I've talked to don't have great financial tax understanding. Talk to a good accountant. Okay, next question. How about the TFSA? Pay now and build the pot for later. I love the tax-free savings account, or TIFSA, or TFSA. It is fantastic. You should be investing in your TFSA now because every dollar of gain you have in your tax-free savings account is there for life. So if you take your $50,000 tax-free savings account, invest it in stocks, it grows to $100,000. You take that $100,000 out. Your tax-free savings account has $100,000. It's called contribution room. Of contribution room forever. If you grow your TFSA to have $1 million in contribution room, take the money out, that $1 million is there forever. It's a tax-free shelter for the rest of your life. That room is forever grown. Unfortunately, it works the other way too. I put $60,000 in mine, invested in some penny stocks, lost 10 grand, and my TFSA now is forever $10,000 lower than everyone else's. Now I have to grow it back by investing smartly. So you can also lose the room in your TFSA. If you put $60,000 in your TFSA in penny stock and it goes to zero, your tax-free savings account now has a contribution room of zero till the next following year, which is like $5,000. So you've lost all that room permanently from 2009 to wherever today. So be careful what you invest in your tax-free savings account. But I love the TFSA for interest-bearing debt or more safe, consistent income plays that are fully taxable normally. they're great inside of a TFSA. Whereas, capital gains are not as good in TFSA because they're already they're already quarter taxed in your personal hands. So you might as well take them personally and not in your TFSA. Anyway, that's too much to go into. Okay, I'm gonna catch up on these questions and then go back to the YouTube channel. A lot of thumbs up. Thank you. Appreciate all that support. Most financial planners are broke. This is true. I was a financial planner. I had my mutual funds license and insurance. And what I found working at Freedom 55 was that there was a lot of good salesmen that were following good scripts, but were not financially sound planners. I don't want to throw shade because there's obviously some good exceptions to every rule, but yes, by and large, the financial planners that I have met are often not multimillionaires themselves and often just good salespeople. So just be careful. There are a lot of good ones out there. No one is looking at, I've always subscribed to the philosophy that no one is looking out for your best interest better than you and your own. So look after your own tax planning, look after your own financial situation. The accountant isn't going to come to you and say, hey, you forgot to send me this receipt for $1,000 in your rental property. They're just going to file what you send them. So the accountant's going to miss a lot if you're not looking after it. A lot of people just send what they have to their accountant and say, my accountant took care of it. Your accountant doesn't know what you spent over the year on your properties or your businesses. They're not going to catch those write-offs. You've got to catch the write-offs. You've got to know. Even the best accountant in the world doesn't know what they don't know, right? It's impossible for them to know what you're doing. So only you have to keep track of what you're spending and prepare that in a spreadsheet and then send that off to your accountant. So it comes down to you. Take accountability for your own financial future and you will be several times wealthier over your life. Just by sitting down and having a, every 6 months or once a year financial planning session with yourself or your friends, you will be several factors richer, several multiples richer. People say having a financial planner, you're like 4 to 6 times richer over your life by having a financial planner. You're probably 10 times richer if you take a personal approach to looking at your own finances and examine every single year. It's something I've done. I sat down a year and a half ago and said I want to double my net worth, and I came up with a plan. And I did that in a year, double my net worth. And I'm going to do it again next year and do it again the year after, at which point I'll probably be so wealthy that I'll still keep doing it, but I don't need to do it, right? So that's the point, is that you take control of your financial future. What you plan for, you can make a reality. So it comes down to you taking control of your financial future, and if you don't plan for it, you're almost like planning to fail, right? Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you. You have the best financial YouTube channel. That means a lot, actually. Thank you so much. I need to dive deeper into this and share these types of conversations, I think, on my main channel in a greater capacity around personal finance. So I'm really excited to bring the streams back to the main channel as well. I don't know if we'll keep the videos on there because I think it's killing the algorithm, but I want the main audience to find these, to learn about all of this, right? There's just so much in the personal finance sphere. Everything from like debt management to cash flow management and budgeting to like where do you invest your money to all the personal financial fundamentals around tax. There's just so many different divisions that we could spend 1,000 hours talking, and I'm not even an expert. Like, maybe I'm an expert, but I'm not a master. So continue to learn, and the rules are ever changing, so I'm always learning and always trying to improve myself, and I'm by no means perfect. Yes, great job, no edits. Great explanation. Thanks guys, I really appreciate that. I wish I would have been saving this video. We could have posted it on like socials. I guess this will be on Facebook so people can watch it. I could comment. How about TFSA? We did that question. Now I'm going to jump back over to the YouTube channel. Okay, here we go. Thoughts on financing burnout? Jonas, who's sitting behind me. Should I show the world my mentees? All right, I'll show Instagram.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, see behind the scenes, guys? Jonas is kind of blending in there.
Well,
With the floor. Just kidding. Just teasing you, dude. Now you have a white shirt on. You're easy to see.
I got a message I gotta show you later.
Alright, cool. Did you message about Todd? He's calling me. Can you message Way? He needs money for a dump run or something. Okay, going placing this back down here and going over to YouTube for a sec. For all those people who are just watching on Instagram, I just randomly chose one of my platforms and showed some of the mentees chilling in the back there, watching us live. So what are the thoughts on financing burnout? What is financing burnout? Financing burnout is when you try to finance a business or property and you experience the point of burnout, because financing people think is easy, but if done properly, is a lot of work. You will apply to 3, 4, 5 lenders, and each lender will ask for years of tax returns, pay stubs, letters from your employer, bank statements, 30, 60, 90 days stamped at the bank. You have to go print off. They're going to ask for, you're looking at your credit. They're going to ask for proof of down payments, all your investment accounts. They're going to want copies of every lease that you have on every single rental unit. They're going to want to see property tax bills on every single property you have. They're going to want to see utility bills on properties that you own. They're going to want to see mortgage statements on every single property, credit card statements. It's an elaborate process, hundreds of pages, hours and hours of back and forth. Financing 3 properties, for instance, in a short period of time with, say, 4 lenders is like 12 applications. That is almost a full-time job. So trying to do that while working full-time, while also trying to, balance a bunch of things and juggle, it's hard. I've been there. I understand those people who are suffering through financing burnout. It is painful, but you will get through it.
Just give me my money.
Jonas says, just give me my money. Actually, it feels like that at the end. You're like, please just lend me this money. Like, I've given you everything. What else can I give you? He just hit his head. Sorry, I won't embarrass you on camera. Financing burnout is real. Burnout with anything is real if you do it too much. I think that's just the nature of like repetitive tasks being a human being. Yeah. Hey Leela, good to see you on. Does appreciation in principal count as fixed capital when you're calculating ROI? I consider it to be part of my profit, which would factor into my return on investment. I look for appreciation at a very conservative, like 2% every year. I would definitely factor that into my overall return on my investment. Maybe appreciation is a bit of a stretch, but definitely mortgage paydown. Mortgage paydown is guaranteed. Every single month you make your mortgage payment from the rental income, there's profit there, and you're making that money whether you're seeing it pay down a balance or you're getting it in cash. That's money that's profit for you. The tax man is making you pay tax on that mortgage principal, so you should probably count that as profit because they're literally taxing you on it every single year. So yeah, I definitely would take that into my ROI. And I missed the second part of that question. Where was the question? Profit or fixed capital. Does fixed capital only include down payment, reno, and fees as source capital? Yes, typically I include just the acquisition costs. So that'd be your fees, your down payment, and your renovation budget in your ROI. Unless you did a purchase plus improvements and pulled all the renovation budget out, then you wouldn't consider that capital in the project. So it depends on the project, but definitely I would include that. Okay. I have an idea of my money being locked away in the RRSP. Oh, you hate the idea. Yes, I also hate the idea. Can I borrow against it? Yes. You can also use your RRSP capital as proof of down payment. So the RRSP, I have considerable money in my RRSP. I can use that for a down payment proof anytime I want. You also can withdraw money from your RRSP whenever you want. People think registered retirement savings plans are locked away forever. They're not. You can withdraw from your RRSP whenever you want. You just have to pay tax on it because the money in your RRSP was put in at before tax dollars. If you put it in after tax dollars into your RRSP, you get a gross up tax credit at tax time. So you get a credit from the government to make it non-tax, pre-taxed income. So of course when you take it out, you have to pay tax on it. That's all the RRSP is. The hope is that you take your RRSP out in years when you have low income. So if you ever have a low income year, say you're like 35 years old and you are retired or unemployed for a year, it's a good time to draw down your RRSP. It might even be lower at 35 than it would have been in retirement. So people use the RRSP wrong sometimes. It is a tax sheltered vehicle that it can grow in interest free forever, like tax free forever until you take it out. But when you take it out, you pay tax on those gains, you pay tax on everything as if it's regular income. So the RRSP is not as strong as people think it is. It's one of the last vehicles that I go into. I do have an RRSP. It's got a lot of money in it because I like a pension thing, my old job, and I contribute to my RRSP for the tax write-off because I figured, at some point I'm going to have a lower tax burden, and I figured even if I don't, even if my tax bracket burden is higher, I'd at least have the time value of that money over 50 years. So 50 years from now, paying tax on the money, it's almost like paying no tax at all, right? So something to think about with the RRSP. The second part of your question is, can I borrow against it? The answer is yes. You can also lend out of your RRSP. You can take the money in your RRSP and lend it out through a third party like Olympia Trust and put it on a property as a second or first mortgage, as long as it's like not a family member or your own property. So you could do it for an investor like myself. You could reach out and say, hey Mike, I have 100,000 in my RSP. I'd like to get a 10% return on that. Can I toss that as a second mortgage on one of your rental properties? Yes, you can, and I would help you do that. And you'd get 10% return. You get $100,000. You'd get $10,000 every single year, and you get mortgage payments paid into your RSP. And then you can withdraw those and live on those if you wanted to. You pay tax on them, but you're creating $10,000 in passive income for yourself that you can withdraw, and you have to pay tax on it, but it's yours without touching your RSP, leaving your RSP fully intact. That's powerful, really powerful. You can also go, and yes, you can borrow against your registered retirement accounts. But yes, lending out of is my favorite way to create passive income without actually touching the RSP or TFSA. Very powerful. Okay. Otherwise, wouldn't I be able to benefit more by paying tax on it and investing it in real estate? Potentially. It depends. The answer is, if your return on investment net of tax was that much higher in real estate and you could guarantee on that, then yeah, it would make sense to cash out your RSP and invest it in real estate. If your return was like double, but can you guarantee that? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you can get a 30% rate of return and, an 8% rate of return inside of a tax sheltered account, 30%, even after tax, is still better than 8%, no tax, right? Or deferred tax, right? So that's a no-brainer, in my opinion. Good question. Great question. Okay, we answered that question. Mike, bath time. One last question. I have my Detroit properties in an LLC. Any advice on getting loans for properties behind an LLC? I know you aren't big on LLCs for small property, but that's how I set it up. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. In the United States, in the US, the LLC is a little different than what we have here, and it is actually worth it to open up corps in the United States, more so than it is in Canada. It is much less advantageous to open corps to hold properties in. So yes, makes more sense to, in my opinion, it makes more sense, definitely all day long, to do that. So LLC makes sense. The first part of your question, sorry, was bath time. You were asking getting loans in an LLC. I've not had that much trouble getting loans inside of corps. What I found is it's more difficult, but definitely is something that is doable if you personally guarantee the corp, basically. So if you personally guarantee the corp, that'll help you get the loans. It is more difficult. Talk to some different mortgage brokers and find out some more options about that. Okay, so no fixed capital, the amount of money fixed in the asset that you need in order to generate your ROI. Okay, so yeah, I mean, you're talking about like the amount of capital you've put inside of an asset to determine your ROI. So your I in ROI is your invested capital. And so I often include my down payment and my renovations if I can't refinance that out. After I refinance, my ROI calculation changes to the amount of capital left in the project. So if I bird a property and my capital in the property is zero, because I pulled it all out, even net of all the fees, now you can imagine a situation where my ROI calculation is zero for the capital invested. No matter what my return is, my ROI is infinite. It becomes a moot point. So if you BRRRR properly, your ROI is infinite because you have no capital in the project. Something to think about. Some people don't do their numbers a little differently. Some people assume that the debt that they've borrowed is like their own capital. I think it's a wrong way to look at it, in my opinion. I think you pay debt service on that money, and you should factor that in as an expense, and that's the way you should handle debt related to property. It should come out of your operating statement. That's how I've always handled it, but there are many ways to skin a cat, many ways to think about the same problems and get to basically the same solution. Maddie says, I love how I didn't get a notification, WTF. Weird that she didn't get the notification. I don't know why. Maybe if we go back to the main channel.
I didn't get it either.
YouTube notifications are a disaster.
Yeah, there's no notifications going out. Maybe what we need is we need to just put it on the main channel and then share it with a post on the main channel or something. I don't know. I think if we started doing super chats on the YouTube channel, that people would get, like YouTube would be like, hey, I'm making money right now. I'm taking 40% of every super chat coming in. I'm going to pump this out to my subscribers so I can make more money. So maybe by aligning this to YouTube's algorithm, which is YouTube is a business and YouTube wants to make money, we would have better results. Something to think about. I don't know. You guys want to support? It will help. It will help blow it up. Okay, so I'm also frugal, so I come from the other side of it where like, let's try to reduce costs as much as possible. There's withholding tax on RSP withdrawals, making it not worth withdrawing from early. That's debatable though. Depending on how badly you need that capital, it already is money you're going to have to pay tax on at some point. That withholding tax is tax you're going to have to pay at some point. They're just withholding it for you, and if you owe less tax at tax time, you get a credit back. If that is the tax rate they've calculated is the tax rate you're going to get, then it would make sense that you have to pay the tax. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. You can also do something sneaky where you take out small amounts from your RRSP over time, and they tax you withholding tax of like 10%, I believe it is. So you can kind of avoid a lot of the withholding tax by taking small amounts out. But anyway, that's kind of like gaming, getting it out. I think there's probably a waiver you could sign where you could avoid most of withholding tax. I don't know. Look into that. I don't want to say that out loud because I don't know if that's 100% true or not. We need more burrs, said Michael. Yes, Michael Chong, you're right. We do need more burrs. They are harder and harder to find in a booming market, and we are nearing the top of, I think, the market. Either it's going to be another plateau for a while, or we're going to see another pickup, or more likely, we're going to see a little bit of a slowdown, right? During slowdowns, we will find burr opportunities because no one is bidding on properties. I can get in there and I can negotiate steep discounts where I can create equity. Top shelf product, it's renovated well and getting top rental income will still be desirable in a recession. People with money still have money in recessions. In fact, most of them pull back from their financial advisors and put it in safe places like real estate, like bonds, right? They do mortgage lending. Something to think about. I think a recession is just what we need. I need to cull back a little bit and be prepared for the next recession, I think, in a better way. So my land development project, which you guys have been following on Instagram, you'll know about those 4, lot developments. They're at risk of a recession. I should finish that project up because cottages and things like that, cottages are high risk in a recession. They tend not to have great cash flow. They're more appreciation play. They're more emotional. That's something that at least I'm targeting the luxury market, like the rich, but still, I mean, thinking about recessions, I should tie up that loose end. That's something that would put me at risk in a recession. Not that I would ever lose fire. It's not that big of a risk, but I would feel it negatively. If I personally guarantee and only pull out 70% it's insured, how much downside can you see? Yeah, I think that a 30% pullback is more than I think we're going to see. So you're not going to lose. And you only lose if you sell. So what you do in a recession is you hold. You hold diversified, safe stocks. You hold your real estate portfolio. You keep renting it out through the recession. You make your mortgage payments. You don't default. And the bank doesn't call. And you ride through it, and the property appreciates again. You lose if you lock in the sale at a low. That's why I don't let my investors control the sale of our properties, because they'd be irrational, and they might sell during a downturn. I'll control when we sell. I'll decide when it makes the most sense, because I know the market conditions, and we want to be smart about this. We don't want to be irrational. We don't want to lose money. So what you do in a recession, you hold, pull out capital, and you double down on cash flowing, self-servicing real estate. Debt serviced. Not real estate you have to carry. Not cash flowing real estate in Toronto or Vancouver. Don't touch that. Unless you're really rich, in which case do whatever you want because you're rich. Principal and appreciation. Now, well, seriously, I've had investors reach out. They're like multi-millionaires, and they're like, I'm going to buy property in Vancouver and Toronto. I'm like, cool. You do you. You've got like $20 million. You can stand to lose 5. You keep making those gambling bets. You don't need the cash flow. But for everyone else, the 99%, we need cash flow. We need to service our debts. Principal and appreciation is a part of your investment, though. As you build them up, that decrease your ROI because you need money invested in the asset to generate your ROI, so it's like the down payment. I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is that over time, as you pay down your mortgage, the amount of capital you have invested in the property increases. I made this point in a video before as well. Many people have portfolios that are 50% paid down. Snake Eyes 11, great point. I get to what you're making now. The point you're making is this. When I buy a property, what I'm talking about is using the capital you have invested. But 5 years from now, you should look at your property and say, hey, Market value is say 400 now, and mortgage is paid down to 200. I have $200,000 in equity. If you look at that and you say, hey, I'm making $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month on 200,000 invested is not that good of a return. Now your ROI isn't as good because you have a lot of capital. How do you fix this problem? How do you get your return on investment up? You re-mortgage the property. You refinance the property and pull out 80% loan to value and buy another property. Or do something with that money that is better than the interest rate you're paying on the debt you're pulling out. That will crank up your return on investment. So you either sell or refinance. If you can't refinance, you may have to sell. That's where you rebalance your real estate portfolio. I don't like real estate owned in cash. It doesn't feel very good. The ROI is bad. Real estate paid off in cash is not a good investment. The ROI is the exact same as the S&P 500 over the last 10 years. That's not great. People, you see articles, they're jumping out like, hey, real estate, didn't perform as well as the S&P 500, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about unlevered real estate, buying in cash. Levered real estate is 5-to-1. Those returns are much greater than if you can get in the S&P 500. That's a guarantee.
Home is your best asset.
If you're financially illiterate. But actually, there's a point to that. Jonas makes a point. My mentee in the background yelled that your home is your best asset. And he makes a point from a tax perspective. Here in Canada, and in the US as well, up to a certain amount, but in Canada, it's unlimited. In Canada, your primary residence is a tax-free sale. If you were to every 2 or 3 years buy a house for $200, fix it up and sell it for $600, and follow that model and make $400,000 over 2 years, it is the single greatest way to earn a tax-free income, is to flip your primary residences every so often. So there is a huge advantage to the tax-free primary residence exemption that we have here in Canada. It's capital gains free. If you've lived in the property, it's a tax-free sale. You bought a house in Toronto for 200 grand, you've owned it for 4 years, it's worth $1 million now because you renovated it and you lived in it and it appreciated. You just made $800,000 tax-free. You paid no tax. That is huge. That would mean for most people in Toronto and Vancouver, the majority of Canadians live in a major metropolitan. In the last 10 years, their home was their greatest asset. And they actually did make more than they've made in their entire lives from their income, just from their house, completely tax-free. So that is where the saying comes from, and there is validity in that. But a lot of people treat their houses with emotion, as they probably should because it's the place they live. But they don't make smart, sound investment decisions. And so they'll, in a flat market where we're not seeing the crazy appreciation, people make stupid renovations, mistakes. They renovate for things they want, not things that resell better. People make mistakes. And so that's where I say always come at it with an analysis perspective. But your house can be a great thing. The primary residence exemption is amazing, and it's fantastic. I really think you should take advantage of it. I've been taking advantage of it since I was 19 years old. It's been a huge advantage. I've earned a lot of money tax-free on the sale of my first property that I bought back in 2012. Again on my new build that I did. Again on the next duplex I lived in. Again on this house. You guys follow me on Instagram, I'm probably going to build another house. I'm going to build a dream mentee mansion, like an 8-bedroom, 7-bath or something to that effect, like using the secondary dwelling unit type walkout thing. And that's going to be a really crazy build project. I'm planning on the next couple of years. Nothing's for sure yet, but it's something that I plan to do. And I'll sell this house for a $200,000 tax-free gain. At my tax bracket, 200 grand tax-free for my primary residence is probably the best investment I've made all year, if you consider a single investment. Obviously, this one property is not going to perform better than 50 properties, but compared one for one, property to property, this will be the best return because there's no tax on it. So that's huge. That's a huge boon to your overall strategy. Principal appreciation is a part of your investment, though. As you build them up, that decreases your ROI because you need the money invested. Yeah, we did that question. To generate profit, correct. I think I answered that question. When are we moving out, Mike? Oh, it's going to be a while. There's nothing in stone yet. It's going to be some time before I haven't even got plans fully drawn up. Haven't even found a lot yet. This is a long, long way away. But knowing how I move, once I make it, people who know me know that once I get my heart set on something, I move very quickly. I take a long time to make a decision, but once I've decided on something, I'm loyal to that idea or that person until the end. So if I commit myself to building a house, I'm going to build the best damn house for the best price. And it's going to be something to see. Anyway, I got to wrap this stream up. 3% appreciation in principal pay down reduces my ROI by 4% per year over the first 5 years. So when you pay, say 25% ROI, you're just talking about the first couple of years. Correct. Yes, the first couple of years. I do 2-year fixed mortgages because I like to refinance every 2 years when the mortgage term comes up. It's just been the style. Pull the money out. You're right. As you pay down property and as it appreciates, it works against you. The gap of equity grows, and that's bad. So, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, I just killed the live stream.
Failure.
Ah. So there's no live stream on Instagram now. It died, and there's no playback. It got deleted. It's all the questions on Instagram that I was waiting to answer. I'm sorry. So, on that note, we've been on here over an hour now. It is 8:39. I've got a million texts I should read. And thank you all for watching so much. I appreciate you all. I've seen a lot of my friends jumping in. I've seen like 30, 40, 50 people jump in on Facebook here, popping in, saying hi. Any questions that I missed? Cute and smart. Thank you, Kim. Orlando says, awesome, man. Can you talk about how to find a mentor for future live videos? Yes, I have a mentorship program that I run. It's a full-time program where I change the lives of my mentees. We get them from 0 to 100 real quick. Get them to financial independence. That's the plan. The first 6 months are painful, and they're testing grounds. So that's something to think about. If you're going to get into the program, you need to be committed. I don't want someone that's going to come and then leave. Not interested in that. Okay, so how do we find mentor? I've done videos on that too. You can go on my main channel and you'll find a bunch of videos I've done on how to find a mentor. I love mentors, and I think mentorship is amazing. Going back over here to YouTube, when trying to acquire 2 new mortgages with 2 different banks, say for the lease down payment of 5%, do you recommend saying to both banks that you intend to make the property as your primary residence? You could do that. It is risky if they find out. I'm also of the opinion that 5% down mortgages are to be avoided, mostly because the CMHC fees today are like 4% of your whole down payment, 4% of the purchase price, which is almost your entire 5% down payment is gone. Day one is a fee. That's an expensive fee for the right to put less capital down. You are cheaper to use 20% down on both and do 2 banks and then borrow the money from somewhere, from unsecured line of credit. Go open a business and apply for a line of credit. Go in personally to all the banks. My mentees have been proving that that's possible. Go ahead.
What if it changes depending on the rate? Like
What do you mean?
That Butler rate at like, what was it, 1.99, something like that? That would change the scenario, right?
Yeah, so that's true. He brings up a good point. We were actually discussing the fact that currently there are some really aggressive rates for insured properties. And the 5% down, I am eating my own words when I said I hate the 5% down CMHC fees. There are programs you can qualify for with some lenders where you get up to a 0.5% discount in the interest rate because the mortgage is insured. So if the interest cost, you go shop for a 20% down mortgage and compare that to a 5% down mortgage where you get a really aggressive interest rate. Compare the two. And if the interest differential over a 5-year period offsets the entire CMHC, mortgage insurance fee, then it's worthwhile doing. If you plan to hold. It does make sense. That's the only situation I can think of where it makes sense. You share the link to requirements. Go follow me on Instagram at Mike Rosehart and go into my saved stories and click on the mentorship program. You can learn about the program. You can see how to apply, where to apply. A piece of it is like looking for people who I want on my A team for the rest of my life to be in my inner circle. A piece of it is guys who are willing to hustle. Like you have to be willing to hustle and work very hard. You have to have a work ethic that you're willing to literally get dusty and covered in paint and be drywalling 12 hours a day for 3 months straight if you have to. I have to know that when I call, you'll always answer. I have to know that when the tenant calls, they're going to get an answer. So reliability and work ethic. That is pretty much it. You don't need to have money. You don't need to be the smartest guy in the world, but you need to be working very hard and you need to be reliable, someone I can count on. If you aren't those 2 things, you're not the right person for the mentorship program. It is a full-time responsibility, and it needs to be taken seriously. But if taken seriously, the mentorship program, if you made it priority over everything else in your life, you would see success over a 4-year period, and compared to a 4-year degree, you'd have, instead of $100,000 in debt, probably $10,000 a month in cash flow. So, life-changing. But again, a lot of energy and a commitment, and most people won't make the cut. That's why I'm going to screen well. That is the mentorship program in a nutshell. I'll see you guys all on my Instagram stories, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Jump on the main channel, and let's try and do some super chats. See if we can get YouTube to promote the video through compensation. We'll pay them to care.
Can I see the outro?
Yeah. Jonas, come here. Come see the
No,
intro.
I don't want to go over there.
No, you come on camera.
No.
So you don't want to say it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you
These guys want to come on camera. Go ahead. Yeah, give it a shot. They're not going to hear you unless you come close, though.
Spend less, earn more, and maximize those returns.
There you go.
Or you suck. Oh wait, that's not part of it.
That's not part of it. Shut up, Kyle. Secret to unlocking what through you guys. Spend less, earn more, and maximize those returns. Those are the 3 levers. Play with them, maximize the difference. Boom. Bye. Take care, everyone.
I said, go and get